Okay, search engine optimization. So this basically allows your web page to be ranked more effectively, and there's a number of things that you can actually do in order to help your page appear on, generally the first, second, and third page. So search engine optimization, or more commonly known as SEO, is basically affecting the visibility of a website. So you may have created a website and you may have it on a domain, and that's just not alone going to do anything. So you have to submit it to different directories such as Google, Yahoo, and Bing. In addition to that, there are a number of things that you can actually do. Remember, we covered page titles. So your page titles need to be unique for each page that you create. Meta descriptions. Meta descriptions doesn't generally refer or apply to Google, but it does apply to the likes of Bing or other search engines. So it's good to have a good set of meta descriptions. Headings. Headings refer to H1, H2, and H3. So every page that you create should have a H1 tag. And then if you have any subcategories, you should have H2, H3, and so on. File names is a key area. So whenever you're creating a page, you need to have the correct structure. So I'm just going to go through and try to build a few pages, and how would we create them. So I'm just going to create a new folder, and let's say we're going to be selling apples. So this website is going to be called Apples. So our pages are going to be here, and let me just launch an editor. So I'm just going to create a basic structure of our page. And then we're going to have the body. So right at the top we will have a title. So our title is going to be Apples, Seattle Apples. Okay, so that's where we were based, Seattle Apples. And then you would have a description and meta tags, something that I did cover. So you would actually have that. So I'm going to save this as, and it's going to be my index file. I would save it in my Apples folder. I'm going to call it index.html. Okay, so we have index. I'm just going to copy this a number of times. So these are going to be our different pages. So generally most websites will have about, and we'll have a home page, we'll have a contact, and maybe products. So I'm going to rename these files, and I'm going to say about Seattle Apples. That's going to be my about page rather than just about. Then I'm going to have fresh Seattle apples. So I'm assuming that I'm using fresh. I'm assuming that my potential customers are going to find me by typing fresh Seattle apples. There could be other keywords that they could be using. So the best way to find out what type of keywords are actually working or what isn't is you actually use Google Analytics. And we'll cover that in a second. And then I'm going to have another page, and I'll call it Contact Seattle Apples. So generally we have a number of apples in our, and it's got to be underscore as opposed to dash. So let me just, underscore is better. Let me change these. So you could see the file naming structure, how you should be actually approaching this from an SEO standpoint. Okay, there's going to be a number of images I'm going to have. I may have lots of different folders. So what I generally do is I create folders too. I can create new folders, and I could say red apples. And I could move these files into red apples. I could actually create another folder, call it British apples. And I'll move this into it. So I've now got a series of folders. So when I'm going to be accessing these files, and let me just open this in the browser, you will see in the URL the structure of our page. So in our case, this is going to be the URL, is going to be British Apples, and within British Apples a folder is going to be my HTML file. So when search engines actually, or crawlers, go to your site, this is what they are going to look for. They are going to look for these keywords. Remember, search engines can only read text. Remember when you had alt text? That the purpose of that is so search engines can associate some text to the image that you have. Okay, so far we have a structure of 2 folders. We could also have a folder called images. And you don't need to have a folder called images. You know, by default everyone throws everything into images. I could have this folder, call it red apples. Okay, red apple, it's already there. So let me call it red apple. So now we're actually increasing our keyword ratio. That's the whole purpose. So that will ensure that your website is found and it's indexed correctly by search engines. So try to increase the keyword. So if you're maybe creating a site, you're a DJ, you need to be music association, a DJ, you may be performing at different venues. It could be Seattle. Yes.
So you just create a whole bunch of files. You don't have to put anything in them.
Yes, you do. Yes, of course you do. So these are this is the basic structure of our files and folders. Now that we've got our files, you need to ensure that there's going to be sufficient content. So within these files, you're going to have unique page titles, meta descriptions, headings. Remember H1, H2 tags. H1 you do need to have. Then the file names, which I've already covered. And then sitemaps. What is a sitemap? A sitemap is an XML file. And if we go to Google, there's a number of free sitemap generators, XML. So you could go to create your Google sitemap. You can click on it, you could type in the URL, and it will actually create a sitemap. So I'm just going to go to cis.highline.edu and let's see what happens. I'm going to click. It does around 500 pages, not more than that. So if you have more than 500 pages, you need to use or purchase a tool that will cater for that. So let this churn through, and I'll pause the video and come back. So this is going through link depth. So you may have a number of different levels of where your links are. It may not necessarily be everything in the root folder. You could have subsequent folders within a folder, and so on. So this is actually checking through that, and at the end it will generate a sitemap. Okay, here's my sitemap. I'm just going to copy rather than download that. And let's just have a look at this. And I'll dump this into Dreamweaver. So let me copy and paste that. It's an XML file. So XML is basically data. So let me copy and paste that. It's an XML file. So XML is basically data about data. It's data about data. So if we look at this sitemap for the CIS department, their website, so we have URL, which is of course the link. Then if we go further down, we may have last modified. So last modified, how is this going to be beneficial? So each time you update a page, you need to have last modified, because when crawlers come to your site, they check which page was last updated. If your site is not up, so when crawlers come to your site, they check which page was last updated. If your site is not updated, it's never updated, then the crawlers are not going to come to your site. So it's always good to be updating your content on your site on a regular basis. So it's not just a matter of some customers come to me and they'll have a website, it'll just sit there for years. Then after a couple of months the ranking just drops, and then I say, well, you need to be adding content to your site. So it's not the end of the road just after creating a site and dumping it, submitting it. So you need to be updating your site. So there's a date stamp there for each one. So what happens is crawlers come to your site and they check if there is a sitemap. The sitemap is going to be called sitemap.xml. So I'm going to save this as, and I'm going to dump it in Apple's, just for the sake of it, sitemap.xml. Then I will upload this to my server. So now if we look in our folder, we have sitemap.xml. So the purpose of having sitemap.xml is so that crawlers, when they come to your site, they first look for a sitemap. If a sitemap exists, it'll come directly to this file and it'll start indexing it. If it doesn't exist, it has to go through each page. And remember, there's millions and millions of websites these crawlers have to go through. And it's going to take much longer to have to go through each page and check. Okay, so once your sitemap is created, you would need to go to Google and you would need to submit site to Google, to Yahoo, and to Bing.
So we have to create a sitemap for our website?
You don't have to. I mean, these are just on the net server.
So those would be the ones that we wanted to get click on our page?
If you have your own independent site that's maybe through another hosting company, then yes, it's a good idea to do that. So once you've finalized your site, you would submit it.
In the book, it said something about your ISP can provide a server that you can upload your page to. Is that recommended, or would you recommend doing it a different way if you want to upload a page or publish a page?
Well, no, yeah, I mean, generally, if through your hosting plan, you would upload it, just like you do on the net server. It's going to be no different. So you would still do the same thing. You'll drag and drop, or you'll copy files across, and then you would do this.
I just didn't know that the ISPs had their own specific servers that you could upload a page through.
You can they have through cPanel. You can't do that through cPanel, which you select through cPanel, and you could do file transfer back and forth. So it's the same thing. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, once that's done, you can do Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is actually a free service. So you need to have a Google email account, and then you can go in and you can monitor your traffic.
We just had a speaker about Google Analytics.
Sorry?
In the emerging technology class, we had a guest speaker about Google Analytics.
I mean, it's a great tool. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it gives you a lot of data.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to have a divider here, and this would be like widgets, and this will all be static. All this is so I'm trying to get it so the pages can slide in like this instead of
You need to have a container. So what's your structure like now? So let me draw this. So you would have, do you have one container that holds everything?
Yeah, it's pretty much just one container full of the index page.
So then you need to have another container within that. So if this is going to be your page that slides in and out, you have that, the sliding part, and then you have the ads in a different container. You call this div ads.
Okay. So just putting another container in.
And you say left float, right float.
Okay. What
Within
about
that.
having like a divider, a vertical line divider?
You could have another container, and you could fill that up. Fill that with a color. Style it. You could have 1, 2 pixels just running down as a divider, maybe light grey with a shadow or something.
Would just be a div then?
Yeah. Yeah, a div. I mean, you could have an image in there if you want to. If you want to be really have a cool sort of divider.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can figure out.